Today's conversation is about fierce hope in the middle of medical chaos. Not the kind that pretends everything is fine, but the kind of hope that keeps holding on to God when life is complicated, exhausting, and still unfolding. My guest today is Crystal Griffith. Crystal has walked through traumatic brain injury, infertility, chronic illness, caregiving, medical advocacy, and life as a mom to a medically complex daughter. She is also the founder of Medical Mom Warriors, which was birthed out of her own lived experience. But today, our focus is not just on what Crystal has survived, it's on how God met her in the middle of it, how he provided, sustained, restored, and reminded her that she was not alone. Crystal, when you think about your testimony, where does the story of the medical chaos and the fierce hope begin for you?
It's a great question. So, medical chaos started pretty early on, actually, for me. And in hindsight, I can see it throughout my childhood. I often was in casts during the summers from random things like falling off the three wheelers. You remember those, like the really super low to the ground, and somehow
Yes.
I tilted it and caught my wrist just at the right and had exams that day, and I think I was in the 5th grade, and my mom at some point had scared the bejesus out of me at one point about taking verbal exams because she had to do that once, and
Right.
so I was going to school. I knew I had done something to it bad, but I was like,
Right.
"Nope, I gotta go to school, I gotta go to school, I gotta take my exams." So I'm, like, holding my hand trying to get this. That was the worst penmanship ever on those exams. And then finished the exams and went into PE, and we're supposed to do volleyball, and by this point, I'm just crying, I'm hurting so bad, and I go to the person, and he goes, "You're just trying to get out of PE," and I'm like, "I'm not, I hurt my arm," and he's like, "You just took exams, you're lying," I'm like, "I'm not, I'm really," and then I show it to him, and it's, like, this big. He's like, "I think you should go to the office now." So that was how that summer started, yeah. So I do funky things like that all through childhood. And so by the time I got to adulthood and I had this traumatic brain injury from a car accident, I was familiar with doctors, not living there, but I was definitely familiar with it, right? I don't think I had realized how much I had picked up in all of those appointments along the way. So I think that did kind of propel me into advocacy a little faster than I expected. And I only realized that thinking back, right?
Hmm.
And so from the brain injury and having 48 doctors trying to get out of pain, just like we were talking about, migraines are just,
Right.
whew, between migraines and back pain, like they give childbirth a run for its money. And I can say that because I've had a kid, right? It's just like misery, right? It just takes over your whole life.
Right.
And so I think from in the trauma of trying to get out of pain, I had to hold on to something. What was that? Because it wasn't me, because I wasn't the me that I had already always known. I wasn't the me that my newly married husband recognized, even, which became a whole nother story. But I knew I had to hold on to something, and God had always shown up for me throughout my whole childhood. And he and I were besties. And it was never a big salvation message for me. It was something I just always knew he was always there. And so, in the middle of the chaos and trying to figure out how do I get them to hear me? How do I get my needs met? How do I just get out of the pain so I can function? I can know my name. Because there were times I didn't even know my name. The pain was so
Wow.
excruciating. How did I do that? And that's where the hope really took root. And again, I didn't even know that it was that until my kid came along. And then in my kid's medical chaos, that has been ongoing for, she's going to be 21 soon, um, since before she was born, actually, in utero, it has been ongoing. But the last, I'd say 5, 6 years have definitely multiplied and amplified her diagnoses. We're up to
Mm.
28. several of which are life expectancy shortening. And so, how do you hold on to hope in all of that? And that's where fierce hope really began to be a phrase for me. And
Mhm.
really understanding what was that? Because it's not about the platitudes. It's not about God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. Please, I would like to know chapter and verse of where that is in the Bible because it ain't in there. I'm just saying it's not in there. And if that was true, I would be like, she woman. Like, that's all I'm saying. So let's just put the platitudes aside, right? Let's
Right.
really think about what does hope mean to us when Jesus is the anchor. And when we think about it from his standpoint, what was his hope? Like, even for him in the Garden of Gethsemane, he's sweating so bad.
Mm,
It became blood. Like, and as single mom to single mom, we've been in positions where we are crying out on behalf of our kids, sometimes for
right.
life, sometimes for other things, on ourselves because of the pain that we're in. How do we work through that and live through that?
Mm,
And when you reflect, he never lost sight of who he was talking to,
true.
which was his father. And even
Right.
Jesus said, if there's another way, right? I'm open to it, right? But if not,
I'll take it.
I'm going to press through, just like we were just talking about. We're going to press through
Press through.
the hard moments. But if there's another way, we're open to it. Right?
Right, right,
And
right.
Jesus even said that. So looking back, that fierce hope became for me not just looking at what Jesus did, but also the systems and tools that he had in place. Now, sometimes those systems and tools failed him, like he had three of his closest disciples supposed to be praying for him in the garden, right? They fell asleep, not once, not twice, but three times, right? You're like, what is the problem here? But I get it. I have been in the middle of ER visits with my kid and I'm so exhausted. I'm like,
Right,
I'm
right,
just gonna put my head down for a second. Get them out, right? I get it. And so
right.
we still have tools. They're not perfect, but there's systems, there's things that we can use to anchor that support, to anchor that hold into Him and get us through. And most of all, I feel that it's the vision that I keep in front of me that He already has the solutions. There is not one iota, even what you've experienced to get us here today, right? He knew. He knew today was going to be the day
Mm,
with a storm in your head. Like he knew, but he
right.
already had solutions. He already knew what we were going to talk about. And so he's already got it covered. And I think sometimes if I could
And
go,
there's great peace in that.
oh, absolutely, because nothing's a surprise to him, right?
Mhm.
Nothing. So I want to address one thing though, because I think sometimes we miss this part. We want to say that it's the enemy coming against us. Like, well,
Mhm.
the enemy just doesn't want us to have this conversation. Okay, let's address that. That could be true. I know I'm not supposed to be alive. My child's father was not supposed to be alive. And we've got massive proof for both of those. We know my kid wasn't supposed to be here. It took us 10 years to get pregnant with her, and literally a living miracle that she is here. We know she has a story to tell, a testimony that is going to come because God's promised me that. And God
Mhm.
never goes back on his promises, right?
That's right.
And so even in the midst of 28 diagnoses and even in the midst of life shortening, even in the midst of her having a hysterectomy at 19, God told me I was going to be a grandma. Not up to me to figure that out. That's up to him, right?
Mhm.
He told me I was going to be. He would have told me back then in the 6th grade when I asked him that question, could I just go to straight to being a grandma? He goes, not quite the way it works. You got to be a mom first and then a grandma. So I held on to that promise the whole 10 years. Lord, you told
Right.
me I was going to be a mom. It's not up to me on how it's going to happen, but you are going to fulfill your promise. So
Right.
even when we're walking through the hard times, when we want to think that it's always the enemy, I think it's an opportunity for God to reveal his glory. I think
Mm,
he's going to shape that for us. I think he's going to walk with us as our anchor, back to your original
right.
question. right? And support us with fierce hope so his glory can shine and we can overcome by our testimony. So
Right.
that's my
Oh,
story.
that's beautiful. That is beautiful and on point because it's so easy to say that, oh, Satan's just trying to stop me. The devil's just trying to stop me. No, maybe this is part of the progress, part of the process that you need to go through to increase your faith and learn to depend on God and not on what your plans are or what your schedule is or other people. So that's beautiful. I want to make sure we tell the story about when you found out you were pregnant, but let's push it down a little further. I love that story.
It's a
So
doozy.
you, yeah, yes, it is. So you had been accepted for your PhD program, and there were some difficulties in your path before you had your car accident and the brain injury. So, what did that season take from you, and what did it begin to teach you about?
So I had always wanted to have my PhD. I'm not entirely sure why. Nobody in my family had a full college degree. My dad had a community college degree and he went in the Coast Guard. And my mom had gone to school. I'm probably going to get the wrong amount, but 7 weeks, 4 days, and 36 minutes of some sort. There's a story there, right? She had mono, she had to go home kind of thing. She never went back, but there's a story.
Oh, wow.
Dear Lord, there's always a story in my family. And so when I got my bachelor's, I knew I wanted to do my PhD. And so I actually was going to go to seminary at Boston University. I went up, I interviewed, I got accepted to Boston University School of Theology. I was so excited. And I wanted to make a change. I wanted people to know who God truly was in the areas that we hardly ever talk about, like the Holy Spirit, like our charismatic giftings, right? I wanted to be, many people call it the fringe, right? But not really the fringe, but in line with who God is. But I wanted to be
Right.
that axe preacher on fire, see the little fire appear, right? I was ready. I knew miracles existed. At that point, I don't think I'd actually experienced one other than being alive. Like my whole
Hmm.
life, my mom had always told my sister and my sister's 7 years younger than I, that we were living miracles because she had been pregnant multiple times and
Hmm.
two had gone full term and one passed at birth. His name was Jamie, and he would have had FINS and Down syndrome and a number of other issues. And then my sister Kimberly lived 3 days, and she would have had many, many of the same situations that my brother Jamie had. She lived 3 days and then passed. And then there were some other miscarriages. So the fact that my sister and I were born as normal as we are, and I use the word normal very loosely now. I just want to clarify that. Just clarify that. Because I think every person is normal because God
Mm.
created them to be exactly who they are.
We all have our
So,
own normal.
exactly. So, as what society would deem normal, right? And we were living miracles that we are who we are and how we came out and about and things like that. So from there, then I had just different casts and things like that throughout my childhood. But when I got to graduation,
Hmm.
yeah, here's another crazy story for you. So I just love doing fun things all at one time, evidently. So I graduated from college in the morning and got married in the afternoon.
What?
Thinking, well, everybody's there for the graduation. We'll just literally walk down the half mile to the church and get married. It'll be fine. Fine. It'll be fine. Yeah. I don't recommend that. Just gonna say that, because, why would somebody with mental intelligence choose to do that on purpose? Me. I did that. So I had been accepted to the program. We had delayed term. I was going to start in January instead of September, just because we wanted to give marriage a little bit of time. He got this really cool job at a college doing outdoor rec that he had always kind of wanted to do. And it gave him a chance to finish his degree. He was 2 classes shy. That was, I'll marry you, get your 2 classes done, right? And so I knew my PhD with program was coming. That was going to be a lifelong career. I was very excited
Mhm.
about it. And then September 11th, for not the reasons everybody claims
Mhm.
September 11th, because mine happened well before that September 11th, but September
Mhm.
11th, same day, he did not get up on time, hit the snooze alarm a couple times too many, and I had to drive him to work that day. This is also why you should always wear fresh underwear, like your mother tells you, wear clean underwear. Saying that to you. And so yeah. So I drive him to work, I drop him off, and on the way back, you come up to the crest of a hill, and then you can see down to this light at the bottom, right? It's green. I come down, I'm going through, still green, not even yellow, still green. And this lady comes in and T-bones
Ooh.
me. She did not defrost her windshield, God bless her, 18-year-old Sam,
Oh.
on her way to work to make sandwiches, was late and didn't defrost her windshield. And so T-boned me. The next thing I know is somebody's banging on the door on my window. You got to get out of the car. The car's going to explode. And I look up kind of in a phase and there's smoke everywhere. And I can't open the door
Whoa.
because she T-boned me. It was just bad. So I get out and it's crazy what happens in a car accident because you don't really realize what's happening.
Mhm.
And all
Mm.
I can think of is my husband's about to leave for 8 hours. I have to go tell him what's going on. So I get in some guy's car and leave with him to go tell my husband. Now it's Sunday. Nothing's open. I'm banging on the door. It's like story after story I could tell you about my life. And so I end up coming back. We can't get him. He finds out. He gets there. So they put me on a backboard at this point because I'm like, oh, my neck does kind of hurt. I probably shouldn't have left the scene.
Whoa.
But it wasn't
Probably.
until 2 days later I woke up with the excruciating headaches that did not leave me for a number of years.
I understand that one.
Yeah, unfortunately. And 2 weeks later, ended up in the hospital with internal bleeding and the MRI showing the subdural hematoma. So scientific basis of what was happening was all there. And that began a shift into who am I? What's happening? How did I get here? What did I do wrong to deserve this? And we often, people who are going through these impossible situations, and they are impossible, because it shifts everything in your life, not just one thing in your life, everything in
Right.
your life. And, it shakes you to the core. And I quickly realized there was no way I could do my PhD program, and I do think that was one of the hardest phone calls of my entire life is having to
Yeah.
decline going back to school. When you don't even know your name, how are you supposed to go to school and take graduate classes, let alone prepare messages? And I knew God
Right.
was still there, but I didn't know why I had to go through all that. And then there's the whole, why did it happen? Could it have been avoided from a
Mm.
logical perspective? And you got to work through that process of forgiveness. And then you have what happens to your family. Now the person that I then husband had married was radically different. I went from massive extrovert to massive introvert, and I have come
Mhm.
back to extrovert, as you can tell. I don't mind telling stories. I can do them all day long, right? What the truth is, I will be done after this podcast, and then I will be quiet, right? Because I know what my body needs now, right?
Right, right.
Took a hot minute to get to that place, but now I
Right.
understand what my needs are. And so I would encourage your audience to realize when you're walking through the valleys, you don't know how to get back to the mountaintops sometimes. And you got to figure out how to walk and live in the valley for as long as you happen to be there.
Mm.
That's never easy, but it can be done.
Right. Right. During your excuse me, during your years of having the headaches and the uncertainty, um, and you talked about in the pre-interview a time when the doctors didn't know what was happening or have a name for it yet. What was your relationship with God like during the time of going through all that confusion?
Lot of questions.
Mm,
A lot of why me? Um, what was this going to prove or show about him? Like, couldn't you given this to somebody else who didn't have their life ready to go? Right? Like, you, I wouldn't say entitlement, but you do, I think,
mhm.
walk this journey of going, couldn't you get it to somebody else? Why, like, why me?
Right.
Specifically. And then when the marriage issues started happening and the violence started happening because he didn't know what to do in the situations. Now, don't mishear me. Abuse is never okay for whatever the reason is.
Mhm.
And you have to
Right,
seek
right.
help. Okay. I didn't know those stories. I didn't know to do that. I was in
Mhm.
it going, well, he is doing that because XYZ. I didn't know to not do that. So I want to make sure your audience is
Right.
very clear. No, it's not okay. Don't make excuses for bad behavior. It's their choices
Thank
to
you.
live in bad behavior. And it affects you physically, mentally, emotionally.
Yes.
And so when I'm in those moments, God and I had to have a lot of conversations. But sometimes even to talk to God hurt my head, to be honest, to think about it, to question all the things that we were walking through. And why wasn't he showing up? Like, I did know he could heal. So that was a lot of prayer. Like, Lord, heal me. I know you can. You said in your Bible you could. There's multiple people in here. So you begin to dive deep into all those healing verses and you claim them as yours and you say them on rote memory and, all of that.
Right.
And yet you're not getting healed.
Mm.
And so how do you press forward? Today, there's a fantastic movie called I Can Only Imagine 2. It's the second one
Mhm.
about Bart Millard and Mercy Me. And in there, there's a gentleman in there by his name, Tim Timmons, who helped write that song that they're now the second one that they're now super famous for. It is Well with My Soul, which was stemmed from a story from a gentleman who lost his entire family on a cruise crossing on the across the Atlantic,
Right, right.
Horatio. And he wrote as he passed the same area that
Mm,
his girls died. He wrote the song "It Is Well with My Soul." And I would
mm.
come back to that in that movie, and I really realized in the lowest of the lows of my entire life, it has always been well with my soul because I knew even if I was angry at God, even if I was questioning him, he could handle it. His shoulders were always big enough to handle my anger, my rage, my frustration, my peace, my gratitude, all of
Right.
it, right?
Right, he can handle our emotions. He's n
All of it. He gave them to us. So absolutely, he can handle every single thing that we have. And it was always well with my soul. I may not have understood it. I may have been frustrated with it. I may have questioned a lot of things, but that anchor in me never shifted. And there was a duration of time much later on in my marriage that there were about 3, 4 years that God and I still talked, but I was not happy with him because I was like, Lord, I keep doing what you tell me to do, but you're not getting some other people in line to make that work.
They don't know the plan.
Like, you want to help that? Right? So,
Wonderful. Now, one of my favorite stories. Tell us about the miracle pregnancy and how you found out.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So at the car accident, I was told not to get pregnant because I would stroke out. So that whole conversation in 6th grade where God said, I'll take care of you. You know, you'll
Right.
be a grandma, right? I'm like, okay, I gotta be a mom first. Great. How am I supposed to do that when I can't get pregnant? So we went through 10 years of infertility and we went through all the testing. Interestingly enough, nothing caught it until far into our testing. So in that duration of time, we had 2 failed adoptions. And then we had 4 young ladies that we were willing to help them have their children if they would have them. 3 decided to keep, 1 did not. And so I just kind of can't wait to meet those babies at some point in the future in heaven,
Yes.
you know, kind of thing. I kind of call them my own. Uh,
Right.
and and then we were just about to have our 10th wedding anniversary. And at the time, we were teaching a marriage class, which is a whole story in itself. And
Mm.
and so the I had gone through this testing where they do this dye testing to see if your tubes are open. Most excruciating test I think I have ever had in my entire life.
Oof. Oof.
Most excruciating. That was just horrendous. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, you're not gonna be having kids. Yeah, the dye will not go through. It just kinda kicked back out, and that's why it made it so excruciating. So you've got too much scar tissue in there in both your tubes. There's no possible way you will be getting pregnant." So now, I'm faced with what does that look like? Lord, what's the promise? How are we doing this? Right? Kind of thing. Because
Right.
2 failed adoptions, 4 others that I hadn't made. Like, where are we going with all this? So we were just about to move to Colorado, and as we were teaching this marriage class, I let them know this information. It was one of our last classes with them, but I had this appointment on the books the next week with the gentleman who created the first test tube baby in the whole United States, and he happened to be in Virginia Beach,
Oh.
and we were living in Virginia. And so the gentleman in the marriage class offered to pray for me, which looking back, I always think is very interesting because it wasn't the women. Typically, like it's a pregnancy thing, it would be women nurturing. The men
Right.
asked to pray over me. And so they all prayed over me. And then, of course, the women came out and prayed as well. But the men led it. It was kind of interesting. And then the next week, I went in for this test. And all of this leads up to the story that you asked for. And so I go into this gentleman. He's 72 years old. Now, as a woman, you'll appreciate this because us as women, we have to get all this lovely tests done. His knuckles were like this big around, okay? And he has to do all kinds of fun tests. And I'm like, oh dear God, he's gonna kill me. And so he's doing all the tests and he's like, I'm like, do you say anything about right? And so 2.5 hours of these tests. And then he goes, hey, I'm going to do one more test. Like, okay. So he brings out something that looks like a balloon blower upper, for lack of a better term. And it's got a little pump on the end and he shoots air up the hoo-hoo. And then he just leaves the room. And I'm like, well, alrighty. Am I getting dressed again? And about that time that I have this thought, I get this excruciating pain in my shoulder. I thought I was having a heart attack. I was like, oh my
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna go on the table here and I'm naked. This is a bad plan, right? Like I'm just like dying. What is happening? What feels like an eternity, he finally comes back in. And he's like, I'm like, what did you do? Like at this point, I'm not being nice. What did you do? You're trying to kill me. He's
Right.
like, oh,
Right.
does your shoulder hurt? Yes. Yes, it does make it stop. He goes, oh, your tubes are open. Go home and have babies. I'm sorry, what? So, this test is about a carbon dioxide gas that goes up, and if your tubes are open, it will go through the tubes and then settle under your scapula. And that's what it had done. So, it showed him that both the tubes were open. So, all the other tests were not conclusive that he had done showing that it was open. This is the test that said that. And I'm like, how are they open? Like, at this point, I'm not putting 2 and 2 together at all, right? He goes,
Right. Right.
I don't know, because he has a little accent. I don't know. And I'm like, okay. He goes, go home and have babies. Oh, okay, I'll get right on that. Not like I've been trying that for 10 years, but sure, I'll take your advice and go home and have babies. Right, it'll be great. So, right after that appointment, we moved to Colorado, and we're there about 6 months. And, my husband then gets sent to Japan, for an investigation with the Air Force. And right after we had moved to Colorado, I got in another car accident. It was like a 20-car pileup on a major interstate. Boom, 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 right? We all, like, slamming each other. It was great. And so I had a shoulder issue from the seatbelt. I was passenger, so they call it the police officer injury, actually, interestingly enough, from a seatbelt. So it killed my rotator cuff, and then it got my back. I would just, like, the way I had been sitting in the seat, just
Mhm.
my back the wrong way. So I'd been trying to get MRIs for the back for several months. And while he was gone, I was trying to get them. They finally got me on the schedule, but they kept canceling. So he had just gotten back, and I had this appointment to go at 10 o'clock at night. And I was in the shower, and I was like, I'm just going to put sweats on. I've got, MRI today. We'll just hang around the house and do some errands kind of thing. And in the shower, I was like, oh, I think I'm late. But for me, 10 years of being late was nothing because I couldn't
Mm.
tell you how much money I spent on pregnancy tests that always said negative. So, it wasn't going to be any different. And I'm like, okay, I'll play the game. I call the doctor. I'm like, hey, I think I'm late. I've never been on a cycle, but hey, I'm playing the game because I have this MRI today. And she goes, okay, just why don't you swing by early, get some blood work, and then actually go see if they can fit you into the MRI early. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a good idea. So I go to the base and I got my blood draw, and then I walk down to the MRI, and it's just me and this sweet little old lady who looked like she was 103. And then the lady behind the desk. And she hands me the paperwork. She's like, yeah, we can get you in early, no problem. I'm like, okay. So I'm filling out the paperwork. This is pre-iPad days. Filling out the
Mhm.
paperwork. And I said, oh, by the way, I just had this blood test and we're waiting on results. She's like, okay, I'll keep an eye on it. So as I'm filling out the paperwork, she goes, Miss McClung, we're not going to be able to do your test today. Oh, yeah, McClung. And that's my married name, by the way.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, did your MRI machine go down again? Because this is going to be like the third time that we cannot get this test done. I really need to get my back looked at. It's really bad. And she's like, no, no, your test came back. I'm like, what test? What are we talking about? Test for what? She's like, the test that you just had. I'm like, I had a test. What are we talking about? I'm here filling out your paperwork. What test have I had? She's like, ma'am, the test that you told me about. I'm like, oh, the blood test. Is, do I need to go back there? What's wrong with the blood test? I really have no clue at this point. I'm so used to hearing no, no, no for 10 years, 12 times a year, right? Like, that's a lot of no's.
Right,
A
right.
lot of no's. And you're like, okay. And so I'm like, what are we talking about? So I walk up there, still filling out the paperwork because I'm like, still,
Right.
yes, right. And I said, ma'am, what are we talking about? She goes, ma'am, the blood test you just took, you can't have an MRI. Okay, why exactly? Because you're positive. I said, positive for what? I have no idea what the woman is talking about. None. And she's like, ma'am. And she turns the thing. I'm like, look, here's my social. You've obviously got the wrong person because now I'm starting to put two and two together. I'm like,
Right.
I don't get positive tests. I get negative tests. 10 years worth of negative tests. I get negative tests. And about this point, the little old lady's like really interested in our conversation, has started walking up. And so she turns it and I see my social, I see my name, and it says positive. And about that point, I lose it. I'm like, not nice crying. We're talking full on one big splotch, sobbing waterfall, Victoria Falls waterfall. And and so I can't really talk at this point. So I'm like, print. Like that's all I can get out to print. Like no, and my mind's starting to go like, okay, he's here. I can't get this out. I'm gonna have to show him this piece of paper. Like, this is like insane. Like, how is this positive, God? Like, I'm asking God at this point, like, did you make a mistake? Like what's going on, right? And she prints it out, and the dear little old lady just comes up and puts her arm around me, and she goes, "Is this a good thing?" Yes. You can't stop it. There's nothing in me that can stop this. Nothing. So I have my piece of paper. I'm still losing my everything. And I'm trying to walk down the hall because my then husband works in the operating room of the same
Mhm.
hospital. Now, when you get to the operating room, there's 3 sets of doors. And you can go in the first one, but then you can't go in the second and the third one unless you are an operating room technician, blah, 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 right? So there's
Mhm.
offices between the first door and the second and the third one. And so as I'm walking to go to the OR, holding my piece of paper, cannot stop. People, a person after person is like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I can't do anything but say yes, right? And so I get there, and this is how cool God is. All 3 doors open at the same time, and who is doing a cart, like he's stocking a cart, but my husband at the time. So he like looks at me and like can visibly see something is wrong. Now at the same
Right.
time, we have 3 grandparents who are kind of at death's door. So he's thinking it's one of them. And so he comes immediately. He's like, "What's wrong?" And all of a sudden, I like get the wherewithal to go, I can't tell the man he's going to be a father in the middle of the hallway in my sweat. Right? Like, I've had 10 years to think about this moment. This is not going according to the plan of any plan that I ever had to tell him he's going to be a father. So I'm like, can office? I still can't talk in full complete sentences. So I go in and we go in the office, and I just hand him the piece of paper, and he looks at me and he looks at the paper. He goes, "Is this yours?" Again, 10 years worth. Like, why would either of us think this is real? And I'm like, yeah. And like, I know, like, yeah, I'm with you. I have no idea what is happening here. And he's like, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, "I know." And I finally stopped crying enough to like have a moment. And he's like, "I need to take the day off," or I said, "Take the day off," or I don't know how it does. But he goes
Right.
out, he gets the rest of the day off. And then I see the fax machine in the corner of this office. And these are the days of faxes. My dad's a real estate
Mhm.
agent at the time. And so I knew he had a fax machine at the house, and they were supposed to be at the house that day. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I have to fax this information to my mom and dad. And then we'll
Right.
go out in the car and we'll call them. So I call them. I'm like, "We're faxing you something. Go stand by the fax machine." Click. Like, no hello, no nothing. So I put the fax machine in there. He changes his clothes. We walk out to the car, which is a country mile. We get out there, we call him, and we're like, "Did you get the fax?" And my mom's on the phone with him, and she's like, "Yeah, but I don't know what it means." And my dad in the back going, Kathy, Kathy, it means they're pregnant. We don't have to understand what it means. It means they're pregnant. I know it as well as I'm standing here. That's what it means." And so, of course, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh," right? Yes, it was quite funny. So
I
there's
love that. I love that story.
never a dull moment
Okay.
in my life.
How did your medical journey prepare you to be a medical mom?
I'm gonna say it didn't, but it did. So, with the advocacy pieces that I had to pick up for my own care, I mean, 48 doctors, you got to fight for care. And back
Right.
then, with traumatic brain injuries, they just didn't know anything. Even if they saw it on the MRIs, they didn't know how to treat it. So they'd pat me on the
Right.
leg and go home and sleep it off. And I'm like, I can't even sleep. What do you mean sleep it off? I pass out from pain. Like, that's where we are, right? And so, in trying to find my voice in the middle of not even knowing that's what I was doing, I think I built up a resilience. And I know that's an overused word today, but back then it really wasn't. But that's really what it was. There was
Mhm.
an inner strength of resiliency. Because, like you and I were chatting about when we first got started, you don't have a choice but to keep moving forward. What else are you going to do? No one can do it for you. You have to do it. And so I think that grit, like, I love your glory and grit as your name of your bride, because it was grit. Like, I was having to pull up my shoes by the bootstraps kinda thing and put my big girl panties on and all those little things that we all say, right?
Mhm.
Because I had to figure out a new life, a new understanding of who I was, a new partnership with my body that was very broken. And so that took a lot of oomph to get there. Fierce hope, tools, systems that I didn't even know I needed to figure out how to make. So when my kiddo came along, um, we were pregnant because I was very overweight at the time. I was about 200 pounds, and so that automatically makes you a high risk. And then
Mhm.
I was not a spring chicken at this point, considering it took 10 years. I was 32, so I don't know. They kind of equate 32 to geriatric in the pregnancy
I
realm.
know.
Don't really
Ugh.
understand that. But we'll just go with it. So the one thing I did say no to is the amniocentesis,
Mhm.
because of what my parents had experienced. We already had genetic counseling pretty quickly when we found out I was pregnant, because we wanted to make sure what she had in the way her dad and I came together was not going to be what happened with my parents when they came together and had all of those situations. So there was fear. Like, honestly, there,
Mhm.
there was fear.
Yeah.
And 5 weeks into this pregnancy, I was in another car accident. 5 weeks. And I came to another top of a hill and I'm coming down it. It's super icy and I slide into the back of a truck that had a hitch. Now, not a
Mhm.
major car accident, but it was enough to go, oh my gosh. I was wearing clean underwear, still in sweats. I evidently love sweats at this point in my time in my life. And I was scared. I was scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened? I can't lose this pregnancy. Right? And that fear just and many, many years later in heart healing things that I went through, even my daughter went through, that situation came up because we catalog from the moment of conception, we catalog all of our emotions,
Mm.
everything that happens. And those babies, they can hear in that utero. Let me tell you, they can hear. And so the dear gentleman of the car I ran into was like, I am so not worried about my truck. We're calling an ambulance, because I just turned to him. I'm like, I'm pregnant. And that's all I could get out. And he goes, nope, we're
Oh.
taking you straight to a hospital. But this is how
Right.
cool. It was literally a half a mile behind me. So they took me straight to that one. And I got to hear my daughter's heartbeat at 5 weeks. 5 weeks.
Oh.
And, that just solidified for me. I just feel it right now. It solidifies for me that life starts at point of conception. And
Yes.
God sees that baby and literally is knitting that baby together in the womb. And to hear that heartbeat so strong, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is our daughter." And getting to meet her, like, because we had to know pretty early on whether it was a boy or a girl because of everything that I had endured throughout my whole life.
Right.
There was CAT scans because we had to make sure I wasn't gonna stroke out if I pushed for, a natural childbirth, but dear Lord, this child, God bless her, had her own agenda from the moment she was conceived. And, so at 10 weeks, I was being seen on the base, and this dear midwife was training somebody else, and they're like, "Oh, she's turned, like, we feel the foot up here and her head down there, and she's good." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." What they never felt for was the second foot. So she was doing the splits. Footling, it's called footling breech. Things that you don't know that you didn't need to know. 10 weeks,
Oh.
10 weeks. Do you know when I find this out? Week 39. Week 39, I found out. Yep. And they're like, "Yeah." So 39 weeks, we find out on a Friday. She's footling breech. That ends up being a whirlwind of 5 hours of appointments for the rest of the day. because now we have to schedule a C-section. There's no way around this.
Right.
So, this is my other tidbit to everyone. If you are pregnant, please have the C section discussion when you are not stressed, when there's no thought that you might need it, because
Mm,
then you're informed. So, if an emergency happens, sometimes it
yes.
does happen, you will not be nearly as stressed out. That's
Right.
my 2 cents, my soapbox today. My freebie. Okay, so on that Friday, we meet with the anesthesiologist because of that lovely car accident I was in years ago. I have over 50 allergies. So just hooking me up to something good to get through a C-section is not really a viable option. So we
Ooh.
have to go through lots of conversations. So we have these lovely in-depth conversations with the anesthesiologist, with the surgeon who was on duty that day. We schedule it that Tuesday because that's the next time he's working. So at 7:30 Tuesday morning, we're going to be good to go.
Right.
Okay. So we tell my parents, they're flying in. My husband goes, he has to drive from Colorado Springs to Denver to pick them up. It's about an hour and a half away to the airport. And I'm nesting. So I had just gone to the bathroom. I lay down on the bed. I'm like, oh, I have to go to the pee again. Like, you're
Mm.
9 months pregnant. And by the way, where did 9 months come from? You were fully pregnant for 10 months. Can I just tell you, somebody did not do math well. It's 10 months. Anyways, okay. So I'm like, I go to the bathroom and I can't stop going. I'm like,
Mm.
what is happening? And I'm just hitting the button and I'm like, oh, I think my water broke. Thank you, Jesus, it was on the toilet and not the bed. Can I just say, I just envision all these other people and the amount of liquid that came out of my body. I
Mhm.
laugh at these movies that show this dribble. Oh, your water
I
broke,
know,
dribble.
right?
Like, that's not how it happens, just so you guys know that. Like, no, you're gonna need a
That's not
small
it.
wading pool to collect the amount of fluid that comes out of the body. So I fortunately had gotten in the habit of always bringing my phone to the toilet before everybody sits on there. This was like pre all those days, but
Right,
just
right.
to make sure in case something happened, because I was like having some pass out things, and in case I
Mhm.
needed to get them. So I call him, like, where are you? And he goes, I just dropped your mom and dad. He's not telling me my sister's here. Off to my truck, because we had moved his truck so they would have a car to get on the base.
Right.
And I'm on my way. I'm like, you're gonna need to hurry up. My water broke. And the thing that had been drilled into my head was, you have to make sure you get to the hospital if the water breaks, if you have to have a C-section, because if the baby gets in the birth canal, it's not going to be good, especially with
Yes.
her foot. And most likely we would break her hip trying to get her out. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Right.
So I'm like freaking out. Like, could you get here now, please? And I can't stop blinking. And then I get my first contraction on the way because it's 45
Ooh,
minutes south to this. I'm
right.
like, that was not good. Floor it, buddy, floor it. So we get there. I'm trying to tell the doctor, who looks like Captain Steubing from the Love Boat. Now you're a little young. You might not remember the Love Boat.
I remember the Love Boat.
Spitting image doppelganger of Captain Steubing, but shorter. And I'm like, no, I want the doctor I spent 5 hours with to do this. Oh, he's not on duty. I am. I'm like, no. I'm getting a paintball. You have to use staples. Like, I'm telling him how to do his job based on this 5-hour long conversation we had. Like, all of a sudden,
Right,
I
right.
had very good clarity of what was happening. He's like, honey, I have delivered 800 children. You will be fine. I'm like, you haven't delivered any of mine. Like, no, I want my doctor and my medicine paintball, and I want this, and I want that. And I had a 5-page birth plan. Yeah, that went out the window. Like, birth plans are just pointless. Like, whoever invented the birth plan must have thought they were like entitled to good crack. I don't know. Anyways, So my husband at the time, remember, was an operating room technician.
Mhm.
So he knows he's delivered friends of ours, kids, all of that. He's been in the OR, so he knows what to do.
Right.
So they get us in there, they get the epidural in me. That was a tour. And then he's like in his scrubs and stuff. And 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 I hear, oops. I'm like,
Oops.
whoops. Why are we oopsing? He goes, it's okay. It's okay. Like, there's no oops in a delivery. What are we oopsing? And the baby had, my dear child, again, of her own accord, had decided to come out butt up. And so when he went through the last fascia, he nicked her little bum because she's button up. And
Oh.
uh and that was the oops. And then he pulls her out, and she's lovely and screaming bloody murder, and it was all fine. And then I get the shakes. And so now this is something I've had with anesthesia before. This is nothing
Mhm.
new. It's not
Mhm.
bad. I saw the child for one brief moment, didn't get to hold her. She goes with my dad and her dad, and then to see my parents and my sister, who I knew was there at that point. And they wheel me into a room on a totally different floor, mind you, because this is also when they decided to renovate the entire NICU and PEDS unit for pregnancy.
So, okay, we definitely wanna talk about medical mom warriors, and that is so how did God turn your living experiences into medical mom warriors?
So my kiddo, by the time she hits 2020, when everybody else is dealing with the CV, my dear child and I had already had it before it had a name in 2019. And we already knew she, at that point, probably had, let's just go with 10 diagnoses at that point. There was asthma, there was ASD, ADHD, non-learning verbal disability, and LVD. Um, so we knew she had some things. But and food allergies, massive, massive food allergies. Her very first anaphylactic reaction happened when she was 9 months old. So
Mm,
she had been getting a couple of diagnoses along the way. And I was pulling out all of those advocacy skills that I had developed, and listening and coordinating and getting binders together. And at that point, the school, every time we brought an EpiPen or Tylenol or Motrin or whatever we needed to bring, 7 sheets of paper for each thing. It was so ridiculous that I finally put together what I called the medical cheat sheet.
right.
Well, by 9 months, we knew she had an egg allergy, very severe anaphylaxis egg allergy. In moving through that, in finding out about those allergies and things like that, I had developed this medical cheat sheet for her school. Here's the insurance information. Here's her allergies. Here's what her doctor information is, and these are her ongoing issues. And by the way, here's how to work an EpiPen. She's out playing in the backyard. She sees a bumblebee. She steps on it, and then she picks it up, and it stings her.
Oh,
Think she was
bless her
3.
heart.
She was 3. It was the craziest thing. And so, it's going down her hand and up it. And once it passes your wrist, little information piece, once it passes your wrist, you are considered anaphylactic to bees, by the way. If it just stays localized to the hand, then you're okay.
Mhm.
But if it passes that joint, then you are anaphylactic. So you should carry an EpiPen.
Good
So
to know.
we have EpiPens and all of these fun things. So then in 2020, um, she has had COVID by the time June rolls around at least 3 times. I want to say 4, but at least 3 times. And we had begun to deal with long haul COVID symptoms. She had non-epileptic seizures starting. POTS had been diagnosed at that point. Um, we didn't quite know what the PACs were, which is a heart flutter. And we didn't know all of that was considered long haul COVID. We do now, right? But we were beginning to accumulate some diagnoses that were pretty severe. And we're like, what is happening here? And she was dancing in the living room in June, and she kicked up. And when she kicked up, she fell on the floor and screamed, I can't feel my legs. So I run in from the office right around the corner. I'm like, what is going on? She's like, I can't feel my legs. I can't feel my legs. And she's crying. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't feel your legs? I can't feel anything from my waist down. I'm like, what is happening here? And so that really started and I think kick-started faster the medical mom warrior piece. I had been working on it in 2020 because of these other diagnoses she had received,
Mhm.
more to get other medical moms connected. Like, I just didn't see a community out there. Facebook was really going strong. Instagram was out there, but nothing really talked to us as medical moms. And as a medical mom, there's a lot of isolation. There's a lot of financial
Mhm.
burdens. There's a lot of lack of not just community, but understanding. The medical gaslighting, invalidation, dismissal is off the chart, right? So I had started putting together a summit for medical mom warriors during that year. And then in June, when this happened, I knew without question this had to happen. It got pushed not once, not twice, but 3 times derailed because of what was going on with my kiddo, because that's what we do
Right.
with medical moms. Like, we have to
Right.
pivot. In fact, one of the posts that I made yesterday was about pivoting in the moment because that's what we have to do. And because whatever needs addressing as the priority is what takes priority.
Right.
And as much as I knew that summit needed to happen and I felt bad about calling the people that I was interviewing, I was like, I am going to pre-record all of them because live doesn't fit for a lifestyle of a caregiver. It doesn't. And so I held that summit. I think that one was in August by the time it got there. And we had a great time. We had 11 speakers. We learned so many different things about it. My kiddo was in a hospital bed, trying to get her legs back to use, and feelings back to use. And, we're all shut down. It was a perfect timing to
Mm.
do it because we were all living online. And then I had
Right.
another one 2 years later. Had to do that one from the hospital room with the kid. Like, that's what we do, right? And that's how Medical Mom Warriors really came about, is seeing those holes. And there's so much more available now on TikTok. A lot of medical moms are out there on TikTok.
Mhm.
Uh, And and I don't begrudge them one iota of sharing their stories. It wasn't a fit for me to share like they share. My kid was older. I'm a different generation. I don't think I need to share every little piece of what's happening with her, but I do think the highlights and teaching the advocacy skills are super important. And she's good
Mhm.
with me sharing that part of her story. And that's why I
Right.
do that.
Awesome. Okay, I know the time has gone away, but let me ask you one more question before we go into our closing. What has caregiving taught you about your faith when you're tired, overwhelmed, or you think you're carrying more than you can handle?
There's no think. We are. We are always carrying more than we can handle. So then you add on caregiving in the middle of that,
Mm.
and we're not trained at all. That's one of my huge hurdles that I really want to fight for on the federal front is we have got to get training to our caregivers. So not only do we have this epidemic of caregivers who are caregiving in ways that they absolutely have not been trained for, physically, emotionally, mentally. Once their loved one passes, right?
Mm.
And even as moms of medical kids, like I have one about to be 21, but the reality of my kid living to 70, 80, 90, barring a miracle, God can do all things. I'm a living proof. She's a living proof. We believe in miracles. Okay. So I'm not putting out curses here. I'm just
Right.
saying the reality of logic, she's probably not going to because she lives in a broken body until that's healed, right? That could be this side or it could be that side, right? Of heaven.
Mhm.
But we know it'll be healing at some point, right? And
Right.
we hold those in tension, just back to that movie that we were talking about earlier, that I Can Only Imagine. You're holding gratitude and that tension of a broken body in tension with each other. So we can be thankful for the miracle. We can be thankful for the testimony. And we can be thankful for the impact for the kingdom that we have while we're here. We can be thankful for the glory that he's shining within us and throughout us. But at the same time, there's a brokenness in the body that's our reality that we have to live in. Think of Joni Eareckson Tada. She was never healed, but look how much impact her broken body and the broken way that that body has impacted her life has shifted for millions around the world because of all the things that she has been a part of. So even
Right.
though she wasn't healed on this side, man, she is going to be healed on that side. And let me tell you, that woman
Mm.
is going to be running circles. Like, I can't wait to see her. Like, it's going to be
Right.
phenomenal. But in the
Right.
meantime, that tension exists and she's still changing lives here, right? So when we talk about caregiving, we have to find ways because that second epidemic is once their loved ones have passed, their bodies, the caregiver bodies, are falling apart. Because on average, they are 5 to 7 years behind taking care of their own needs. That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
And so that's the second grouping of people that are now going to need caregivers of themselves. So who are
Mm.
those people? Because the caregivers are going to need the caregivers because they will be absolutely exhausted from their caregiving. So we have to shift this. This is so important. We have to shift this narrative. That's one of the reasons that I'm writing a Bill of Rights for caregivers. Another one is a Bill of Rights for chronically ill. What does that look like? Because you patting me on my leg and telling me to go home and sleep something off, or invalidating me because I'm a woman, or invalidating me because I'm in menopause? No, dude, that will not fly anymore. Nope. Nope.
Mm.
You get out there and you do your job. So when she lost her legs in 2020, that's what happened. They didn't know what was wrong with her. And they came up with a diagnosis called functional neurological disorder. The old name of it is called conversion disorder. The name before that was called hysteria. Oh, it's all in her head. No, it's not.
Wow.
No. And the minute you get that FND diagnosis in your chart, you're screwed because they look at that in the chart and they go, oh, it's all in her head. So her PCOS symptoms, her cysts, her endometriosis pain, all of that has and was ignored for a very long time. Saying,
Mhm.
well, you're also a girl and it's okay to have pain. I got news for you. If you are a girl having pain on your periods, that is not natural. It's not. No one tells you that. We've just, as a society, said, oh, yeah, women should have pain. No, we should not have pain. If there is pain on your cycle, you need to be evaluated. That is not okay. You should not have pain.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong. And so when we get to those places where we have, unfortunately, and I'm not trying to speak bad about all medical staff, we have had some
Of course.
phenomenal doctors. We have. They are as much of a unicorn as my child is a unicorn for what she has that she has to deal with, right? But there are some good ones. But you do have to use those advocacy skills. That's why I have
Mhm.
scripts, I have advocacy, I have group calls. I'm here because I want to help train people to find their voice in a way that helps them get the results they need. It doesn't mean they're always going to like the results,
Right, right.
but at least they know they've gone down the path to get the best results possible.
Awesome. Thank you. And if our listeners wanted to get in contact with you, how would they go about all that?
Really short, sweet, and to the point. Medical mom warriors, that is plural, warriors, because we are all warriors.com. Medicalmomwarriors.com. And the cool news is it's officially trademarked. So I should be the
Yay!
only one
Congratulations.
out there. Just got
Congratulations.
that note. I'm so excited. So Medical Mom Warriors. And right now that is going to show you my Linktree account. We are in the process of redesigning the entire website, but you'll see all kinds of podcasts that I've been on to give other stories and other tips and tricks, as well as multiple books that I've been in. My own book is about to be launched this fall. I'm super excited about that. So So keep in touch. We'd love to hear from you. And also, you can pick up a free guide. It's called the ADA Accommodations Guide. And I think every single person in the world should have this guide because you don't know what you don't know until you find out about it. And so,
Mm,
whatever we can do to make your life as a chronically ill person or a person caregiving for somebody else easier, let's do it. That's what we're here for. Make life easier.
awesome. Awesome. Thank you. So, on our final note, what are some encouraging words that you would want to leave with our listeners who may be going through medical chaos and feeling hopeless or not knowing what direction to go? What could we do to help them strengthen their dependence on God and not on everything else around them?
Think the biggest piece is realizing you're not failing.
Mm, I say that all the time.
Because I think we feel so overwhelmed at times as caregivers, even as parents, just parenting an average kind of kid, right? We feel like we're doing it wrong or it's not enough. And here's what I want to share with you. How do you feel when you know God's sitting with you?
Oh,
And that's how your kid
strengthened.
feels.
Yeah.
All you got to do is show up.
Oh,
And even now, like my mom just had a knee reconstruction surgery on Tuesday, and I just went over and sat with her. Just even then, just for her to know that somebody was there with her. If she needed help going to a bathroom or she needed a Coke, whatever it was that she needed in that moment. Sometimes it's just about presence. It's not about all the answers. It's not about having to fight or being on long holds with insurance, although those things are all part of what we do as caregivers.
right.
And thank you. I want to say thank you because oftentimes caregivers don't hear the gratitude. Their loved ones don't realize they need to show it, or the loved ones can't show it. And I want to say to your audience, thank you for loving them well in the best capacity that you can. Because just showing
Mm,
up means so much. Because if you're not showing up, who would? And that's a hard place
yes,
to be for some people. So I want to say
right.
thank you. And I want to tell you that you are seen, you are loved, and most of all, God delights in you. And not only that, but I personally think caregivers get this special C on their crown when they get up there.
The
That's
caregiver see.
caregiver C. Just
I
saying.
love it. I
It's
love
a
it. I
dream.
love it.
I'm going with it.
I often end the episodes with a scripture. During your medical chaos or your life, did you have a favorite scripture that you referred back to often or at some pivotal moment that really set with you?
For me, it's actually one that I learned and had to read before the class in the 7th grade.
Mhm.
Crazy as it was an actual public school, but we were doing a little thing and I had to share my favorite verse. And it has always been one of my favorite verses. And it's
Mhm.
Proverbs 3, 4 through 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not
And
on your own understanding, but in all his ways, in all your ways acknowledge him. Seeing my brain's even like, whoo, it's not working today. So in all your ways acknowledge him. You know, oftentimes we get in our own way. And so if we could just get out of our own way and trust
Mm,
that he already has the solutions in play, just like we've talked about earlier today. He already knows what you're walking through. Nothing that you're experiencing was a surprise. I got a unexpected note from the tax people the other day, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what is this? What is happening? They're telling me I owe all this money. I don't owe all this money. What is happening?" And I'm like, "Crystal, God knew this was coming. He already has a plan. You just need to breathe." And sometimes we just have
ah,
to have that conversation with ourselves, right? To remind ourselves of
right.
what the truth is. So trust in him. Trust that he is seeing you. He knows you. He's got the steps ordered. And all we have to do is acknowledge that.
Awesome, awesome. Crystal, thank you so much for sharing your testimonies and your stories with us today. We really appreciate it, and this has been such a fun episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It has been a joy.
This has been another episode of Glory and Grit. I'm thankful you were able to join us today with our guest, Crystal. Don't forget, if you need to sit with this and ponder this thought a little more, you can check out the episode's reflection guide. You'll be able to find the reflection guide, our show notes, and our guests' details and a photo, all on gloryandgritpodcast.com. That's Ann spelled out. I'll see you next week. Bye now.